Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. We're finally out of, sounds bad, doesn't it, out of Euro season. We've actually got Man United women games to talk about. We've got, obviously, the game on Saturday. Not that we can dissect that too much, because all we know is who maybe played. We don't even know when they played, how much they played, but we'll go into that a little bit. And obviously, we've got a big week ahead, because we've got a Champions League fiesta. I'm going to call it that, because I think that's a good way of putting it. I've got Charlie with me, I've got Barry with me, who you'll all recognise, but we've actually got a new face with us. Obviously, if people watch All for United, the men's channel, you may have seen Ahmed before. But firstly, welcome to the channel, Ahmed. How are you doing? You're on mute, by the way. Sorry, I had to mute, you during the intro. Can you find it?
I found the button, yeah. I was just making sure you didn't touch anything before I did. No, a pleasure to be here, and it's something different. I think nowadays the love of the women's games, particularly this particular summer, not just the Lionesses, but for another team that I cover, has helped to grow my love for it. So no better time than the present to get involved, and exciting times for United especially.
No, 100%. And John Commode recognises you as well, which I know you would do. So hello to everyone in the comments. Make sure you're liking the video as well. Let's try and hit 20. Let's hit 20 likes for this video. Right then, let's dive straight into it. And we're going to start with Saturday's game. And the only thing we can really talk about is a lack of information, I think is the best place to start, because all we know, Galton scored, United won 1-0. There was a couple of still images, and we had to guess who played, how often they played, just by, I don't know, maybe the sweat on their brow or so on. But Charlie, I'll come to you first on that. I don't know why I said that. Charlie, I'll come to you first. In terms of, what do you think on this in terms of the lack of information? Because I will spin a positive on it. Tomorrow's game obviously is being shown on MUTV, and it is being shown on other media channels. Do you think maybe Saturday's game maybe wasn't shown just because it's at Carrington, it's the first pre-season game for us in particular?
Yeah, perhaps. I think the sort of mini tournament that is it called the French Cup? I'm not sure that they're taking part in now, with a lot of sort of well-known sides and big clubs, is perhaps being viewed as more worthy. I don't know, of being sort of shown on television and whatnot. It's not unusual. I don't think it's been unusual for, whether you agree with it or not, for pre-season games not to always be shown. I know last year we were spoiled a little bit maybe with the women, but that could have just been post-COVID and they wanted people to sort of get back into it. I think the couple of seasons previous we didn't see much of anything. I'm pretty sure it was all behind closed doors. But yeah, it's not. I'm pleased that it's going to be on. It's exciting. It feels like now we're really in the home straight in the build up to the new season, which is what we've all been looking forward to.
No, 100%. John's made a comment here. I guess yes, because we had to get the team sheet from Liverpool. We had to get the score as well. Liverpool tweeted it, which pained me tweeting off the All for United account. I had to quote tweet the Liverpool account for the first result. But I mean, where do you stand on this? Because I know you obviously work with a club as well. In terms of what do you think on this then? Because there's a whole host of reasons why it maybe wasn't shown, but to not give any match reports or any kind of bits of information is a little bit surprising to me.
Yeah. I take pride as someone who follows the game in both the men's and the women's sense, and finding out every possible detail you can for obviously who played in it, how many minutes, how long did the game last. Some matches don't play 90 minutes. Some just do 3 separate half-an-hour periods. I saw a game in pre-season between Sutton United women and Wimbledon's under 23 side play each other 30 minutes because the heat was searing hot that day. But the trouble with finding information for games like these is, I think, more just the fact that clubs do like the idea of secrecy and not trying to release what could be valuable information other than obviously the basic stuff, the goal scorers and the team sheet. It would be nice to know who was, as you say, Connor, who was playing, who got that time out there, who looked like they had their boots on the right feet, for example, or someone looks a little bit like, also one or two may need another game or two just to be sharp. You do need that element of either the footage or like a good report. And I think not having that much free information about the game doesn't help. But in the end, obviously, everyone's glad that it's a win over Liverpool, which is good. And, we all like one over Liverpool, especially in a game which I feel I'm quite sure, even with the conditions, would have been quite an intense game. I think the managers, the coaching staffs of both sides will want those players to be as good as they possibly can be, even if it is their first game of pre-season. So, yeah, it'd be nice to have known more about the game and who was and how long each player got. But at the end of the day, it's never nice. We wish for more, and I hope we can improve that in the future.
No, 100%. And I will just shout out this young gentleman over here, because after every video goes out, always dropping a comment on the video. I love having the discussions after the video. Finally, I think it's the first time I've seen you live in the chat. So welcome to the chat, and welcome to everyone else. I can see quite a few regular faces as well, but it's great to see you on a live video. Barry, I'll throw it back over to you then. I think obviously when me and you were discussing this, we've had a lot of discussions on WhatsApp and all different kinds of things about this. Well, I know we spoke a little bit about this last week on the fans forum and that kind of thing, but I guess where do you sit on this then? You know, some good points raised as to why maybe we've not seen, you know, on Saturday, but like I said, tomorrow's game is being shown. So I don't know, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because it's only one game at the end of the day, but it would have been nice to see a match report of some kind.
As you know, Connor, I'm highly unopinionated about these sorts of things. So I'm just going to start in a joyful manner by mentioning that this sounds like a farmer that I once knew, the Amos French Cup. So yeah, good old Amos. Lovely bloke he was. I was well annoyed, Connor. I'm sorry. I was frustrated and I was angry and I was all of those things because, well, it's only one game. It's Liverpool, for goodness sake. It's Liverpool. There is no bigger game for Manchester United than Liverpool. It doesn't exist. It is the game. And they've chosen not to put that on a platform where we could watch it. Now, even if you take that out of the equation and you say, all right, you might want a bit of secrecy, we don't want to give too much away and all of that sort of jazz. Even if you go down all the corporate answers that you should get when it comes to talking about friendlies, the simple fact remains, as you said, I shouldn't have to be searching Liverpool's website to find out the game's happening, if there's a score, anything like that. It's the bare minimum. Just put out who played, just put out the score. If that's what you're going to do and you're desperate not to show it for whatever reason it is you've come up with, the very least you can do is keep your fans engaged. And the annoying thing about all of it, and the bit that I said on Friday that just frustrates the absolute living life out of me, is that it's on the back of the biggest women's tournament in history. And we've chosen not to take advantage of that. And it frustrates me because we're selling out part of the East End at LSV at the moment. You know, we're actually getting people that want to come and watch this game against Reading on September the 17th, by the way, 12 o'clock, if you can get your tickets. And we had that opportunity to really just sort of ramp it up a bit more. A 1-0 win over Liverpool the day before we get absolutely walloped by Brentford might have made the weekend a little bit nicer. It might have. But instead, we're sitting here now going, oh, I wonder who played. And I'll tell you, 16 names was what I managed to find through the pictures, playing Where's Wally for the Manchester United players. Obviously, we didn't have any of the Lionesses. Bagley was obviously in goal. We know that much. But 16 players, and I'm having to guess who these people are because still nobody's actually mentioned it. We're looking at who's going off to the PSG match. It's only 3 pictures. Again, I'm playing Where's Wally. Sort it out, Man United. You're better than that. And now that I've got off of that, I can go back to my positivity train, Connor. We beat Liverpool.
100%. I will just say, Ian, welcome to the chat, even from Heathrow. Are you flying out to France? I think you are, aren't you? Which jealous. I'm jealous of anyone who's there right now down in Toulouse.
I sincerely doubt he's getting a cab from Heathrow, Connor.
Well, you never know. It could be flying back. Could we come back off? Even though I know that he's not, but you know, you got to you can't just assume. But no, you raised some good points, Barry. And obviously, Mickey is agreeing with you here. No info on the app or anything in regards to pre-season. I think there will be after tomorrow. Like I said, I think this cup is a lot more televised, so it will be different. And I think someone's already answered your comment. Yes, Charlie's already answered it. So there we go. Yes, third place. Third place game of France. Yeah, so it's Bayern Munich or Barcelona, depending on how we get on there. And yeah, Ian, jealous. Just like everyone else who's over there at the moment. But send some pictures across. I wouldn't mind seeing those. There's not much else to talk about on Saturday. Obviously, like Barry said there, we know the players roughly that were around. We know obviously Galton got on the score sheet. We won the game 1-0. Other than that, it looked like pretty much everyone played. Just looking at, again, like Ahmed said, that we don't know whether that was 2:45s, was that 3:30s, was it? We don't know how the game was split or anything like that. So I guess looking ahead to tomorrow and the rest of the week, so that's what this show is. We're kind of looking at last Saturday's result, but obviously looking ahead to the week. In terms of it, I think I know your answers to all of this, but we saw Jade Moore getting some minutes. We saw Stanley getting some minutes, and obviously Clinton was in there as well. Is that what we're going to see this preseason? Because the three players I named there, I actually don't think are going to play more than 3 or 4 WSL games at the most for next season. So I'll come to you, Charlie. We'll go around the house, so don't just fire away after each other. But Charlie, yourself first, in terms of just the game time, I guess, that we saw from some of the players that we know definitely played from Saturday. And do we expect that, I guess, following on into this week as well?
I would expect so. I'd expect everyone, bar obviously those sort of returning from injury, are going to get time. The interesting thing for me about when you talk about game time for which players in this sort of mini tournament they're playing is, like, we talk about how pre-season it's sometimes not worth playing teams that are miles below your capabilities because you don't learn anything. And obviously we're going now to play teams that are, let's be quite honest, a step beyond our capabilities. So going there and putting a team out where you're going to get absolutely tonked 8-0 also isn't useful. I anticipate everyone to get minutes, but I kind of expect what we'll see is a fairly strong lineup in each of those games, whether that's later on in the game or earlier on. I think we'll start to get an idea of what the team's going to look like when they face Spurs in that first game, and what better teams to do it against than the likes of PSG and whoever they play, should they win, which might happen, or should they lose. But yeah, I expect minutes for everybody. But I don't think we're going to go there to get turned over because we'll learn nothing. So I do think the bulk of the minutes will go to particular groups of players is what I would expect to happen.
No, it's a fair point. And Ahmed, I guess, same question, I guess, throwing it over to yourself. But because I think I've lost the comment already. What John's saying there, that, the 4 Lionesses probably won't. They've only come back today. So I'd be amazed if any of them, you talk last 20, 30 minutes or so from tomorrow. But I guess, like I said to you before, obviously you've been in and around clubs and that kind of thing. Just, I guess, what you see as pre-season, Ahmed, because some people see it as different things. Some people see it as it's all about the early part, especially. It's your fitness, it's your minutes, rotate the squads, 2 sets of teams, so you play your first 45, second 45, and so on. Whereas some people like to implement the style and go, this is what I'm going to be doing into the season, so we've got to try and perfect this. How would you kind of look at it from that point of view? Would you be kind of rotating it all around, or just playing your best 11?
In most cases, just as a general answer to the question, I would go with try and mix up the team a little bit, have a few starters from the outset, those who had, let's say, played a large quantity of the game against Liverpool, alongside those who are just coming back coming back either from the Euros, won't start, obviously. We are likely to see the 4 of them play as a part of that in that game against Paris Saint-Germain. But in any event, I would expect it to be a mixed team. So we won't have Mary in goal. Probably Sophie will start at the back. Hopefully Millie Turner's on the rebound. Obviously, Alfie Manion's not available, but I really enjoyed watching her play last season. So it's a shame she's still injured. Hopefully, be back soon. And I think the backline might be a bit of a mix-up. Maybe some youth in there as well. Midfield, with Staniforth, I felt like last season she looked good in some games, but needed like a lot more time to gel with the team. Hopefully this preseason has allowed her to do that. Obviously, it's not going to be a big, massive if she doesn't play games. Obviously, the new additions of Leon, Lucia, and Tunkara may make a difference. But ultimately, in the middle, we don't look too bad. Obviously, it's good to see Jackie Cronen's joining the group. She had a great Euros. I think that will help United's confidence. Hopefully, she gels a lot more as well with the team. And generally, up front, I don't expect too much difference. If Paris gets a few minutes tomorrow, that'll be very good. But I don't expect the team to be very strong. I don't expect it to be like first 11 for Mark Skinner. He probably will think about, bringing 1 or 2 in during the game. As long as they're competitive out there and they follow the principles, it should be all right, if anything. But, it should be a mixed team tomorrow.
No, 100%. I don't know whether I agree with this. Barca will be easier. That's a shout.
Not with the stuff that's happening with them right now. I wouldn't guarantee it to be easy.
They've got some injury issues, I guess. Maybe that could make them a more weaker side. But so have PSG, to be fair. So it works both ways. We could win this. There we go. We'll go with that's your positivity, Barry. We're going to win the tournament. But coming to yourself, Barry, then in terms of I know we can't discuss again, like I said, too much in terms of what happened Saturday because we don't know. We don't know whether players played the full 90 or not. But I guess your thoughts on pre-season in terms of what you would expect, for obviously for the weekend, for this week, and so on in terms of fitness and game plans and those kinds of things.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because any manager you speak to will tell you it's about getting minutes in the leg. That's exactly what pre-season friendlies are for. It's for getting players out there, giving them the opportunity to get minutes in their legs, get them used to playing, get them used to the tactics that are being played that season, and getting them used to any new signings or anything like that you've got. And I think this is probably the only negative about having had the Euros now is that we've had probably one of our best transfer windows ever with brand new players in. And we're talking about this, the very thumbnail was, Champions League test. Well, let's be brutally honest. If you're going to have a Champions League test, you're going to want to put your strongest 11 out to see whether or not they are at that level, because they are the people that you would be playing week in, week out. And obviously we're not going to be able to do that because our strongest 11 doesn't necessarily exist at the moment because we haven't really seen them play together. So it's hard to tell what our strongest 11 is going to be. So it is going to be experimental. And I suppose that's just a word of caution for everybody that's watching, because if we do end up getting, walloped, then, it doesn't mean that we're not ready necessarily for European football. But equally, if we could put out a really strong team, the opposite could be true. It does show that we would have the pedigree to perform. I think the other thing to mention there is that it's also good to see what sort of depth we've got. We were talking about how this gives us options coming off the bench and how we've got the opportunity to do more and show more and have a stronger bench when we're in the WSL. And I think this really just gives us that opportunity to do so. I was just having a quick look on my Where's Wally game that I'd played. And I've tried to match up the players that I thought I saw who potentially might have got on the pitch against Liverpool against the people that I saw on a plane. These are the sort of games I'm having to play. This doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. You feel a little bit rude having to do this level of Sherlock Holmes style work. It's Barry Rust, PI. But the things that I've noticed are, from what I could tell, Maya Letitia was in both. Hannah Blundell, Kirsty Hansen, Hayley Ladd, Jade Moore, Sophie Bagley, Lucy Staniforth, Jackie Gronin, Garcia was there, Vilderbo Risa, and Thomas. They're the only ones that I can match up. We know, having seen on the plane as well, we've got Mannion, Turner, Russo, and Toon. And then you've got the other little ones that get you, which are the people that we've seen walking into Carrington this morning with their boots in hand, presumably with suitcases, potentially getting onto a plane, which would have included the likes of Zellum, Paris, Tunkara. But it's mad. It's mad that we're playing this level of before a pre-season friendly on a big cup that's going to be shown potentially worldwide. It was easy for you to watch if you were in America. If you're in France, you can watch it. Now it's available to people in the UK. Please, Manchester United, can you just... It's not much we're asking for. Just let us know what's going on. Who's there? Who's going to be playing? What can I look forward to? Gee me up for this. Because people are going to be sat at home thinking, do I want to watch this match? Do I not want to watch this match? It's going to be up against things like EastEnders. You've got to try and get people watching the football. And the best way to do that is to talk about it and not just tease loads of pictures of people on a plane.
Barry, you're right though, Barry. Like when the fellas go on pre-season, they release a list of the travelling squad. And that doesn't give anything away, does it? That's what would just be nice is who is it? Which is just it's just straight. I don't think it's deliberate. I just think it's lazy. Or there's been no thought. It's not been thought about. I don't know whether it's like people not wanting us to know. It's just not been a priority, which is really frustrating. That's what we're saying, isn't it?
It feels that way.
Yeah.
It really does feel that way. And I mean, you look at this, I haven't forgotten her. Again, if you go through your private investigator wage on, you look at her Instagram, I think it is, there's something of her on a beach 22 hours ago. And then you look at her walking into Carrington today. It's like, well, where is she? Did she go to Southend for the day? You know, you just don't know. It's not hard to just send out something that tells us who's going. And then it'd make a conversation like this really easy, Connor, because I could talk to you a little bit more about, you know, who's likely to play and who's not likely to play. So I think the key thing is that, you know, it's almost like we've gone cap in hand and we just have to feel pleased and privileged that it's going to finally be on MUTV. And just to catch up on something that Charlie said a little bit earlier about how it wasn't on before, you know, we felt a bit spoilt last year. For the first time in my life, I think I disagree with Charlie. I don't think we were spoilt last year. I think we just started to see the evolution of what women's football should be. Pre-season friendlies should not be shrouded in secrecy at the level of the WSL. I'm sorry, they shouldn't be, because all of the information you need is there. You can see these players. There's nothing, I don't think, that Mark Skinner did on Saturday with that team that any decent football club wouldn't have been able to work out from the hours of footage that's available through Sky and such like. So, yeah, for me, time to get out of the dark ages. We need to get these things on and available so that people know about it. And you know, credit to them for actually fighting and putting this on, because it wasn't planned to happen from what we could see. And I think there were hoops to jump through for them to do, and they've done that. So, you know, more of that, please, United, because that makes me happy.
No, 100%. And I think that's the thing. I think, Charlie, you raised the point. It's not a secrecy thing, because otherwise they wouldn't be tweeting pictures of the players. You wouldn't be seeing playing images and, you know, all these, you know, the players, because they wouldn't allow it. You know, if it was a real big secret who was going. And I don't get this whole secret. That's not an argument for me. It's a secrecy thing, because what they're going to do tomorrow will wear balaclava so you can't see who's playing and no numbers on the back. Like, we're going to see who's there when they do line up on the. So, I don't believe that argument. Barry, you've led me on nicely to the point in terms of it's on the thumbnail talking about in terms of the opposition. Now, one thing we know for certain is we're playing PSG tomorrow night, and that we will have a game against Barca or Bayern Munich towards the end of the week, depending on how we got on against PSG. Now, you mentioned something there in terms of, I put it on the tweet earlier, next season, the aim is Champions League again. We have to, for me, I think we have to get that qualification, depending on how the season goes. Obviously, things can change, but, you know, with a full strength 11 and full strength bench, we should be pushing for that. Now, you're not going to get a better test to see how we'd get on, I think. Now, I know tomorrow's going to be a little bit different, because you've got arguably your three best players. One of them, obviously, Millie Turner, we don't know how fit she is as well. But you got your three Lioness girls not potentially starting the game. So I know it's a little bit different. But we've got a decent squad, as somebody mentioned earlier, to rotate around. I guess my question is in terms of the importance of these types of games, because playing Liverpool, yes, they're going to be in the WSL. That's a good marker point. We have got a game after this tournament as well. The team escapes me. I can't remember who it is for the life of me, but we do have one more game before the start of the season as well after that. But I guess, Charlie, coming to you first in terms of the importance of playing these teams, and I guess what Skinner, what these girls will learn from playing an opposition like PSG and then Bayern or Barcelona after that.
I think just to start in first from a commercial point of view, for the growth of the football club, it needs to be those sorts of teams. It needs to be something you can invest in. I think they'll learn a lot. I mean, I don't anticipate that it's PSG, Barca, is it Bayern? Is that right, isn't it? I'm sure they won't all be completely full strength either. So it's not like we're turning up with the kids and then they're going to have their best 11 on the pitch. But I think they'll learn a lot because those teams will be quick. They'll be well drilled. They'll be tactically very good. They'll be technically very good. And we've got to admit that's what the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal and Man City are. In the league that we're competing in, where we need to oust one of those, basically. I think the best way to prepare ourselves is to play the teams that are as good as or better from other places in Europe. So I think it's really important. And like I said, we know, like someone said, it's pre-season is about minutes. It's about settling in new players. But again, I think it's really important to do it against those top quality teams that are going to cause you problems. Like, we know Barca are going to press like hell. Can we cope with that? That's a really good thing to work on, because Chelsea press like hell. So that's something we need to be able to do. And regardless of who we have on the pitch, whoever that 11 is, that squad is, they've got to be able to cope with that. You've also then got a German side in Bayern Munich who are incredibly physical. and again, they have lots of the German international players on that team as well. Okay, so we know, again, they're a very good side. We also know Man City previously can be really, really physical and testing in that regard. So what a good team to test yourself against. And then you've got PSG, who alongside the others play really good, quick, technical football. And really bullish, as Arsenal are. So I think this is a really good opportunity to play teams that are as good as or better than our direct opponent for Champions League football. I think it'll be really key. And like I said, players like Clinton have to get a go. Moore has to get a go. If something happens to Hayley Ladd, Jade Moore's got to be ready, hasn't she, to come in and face that level of opposition. If Millie Turner isn't fit, if Aoife Manny isn't fit and someone has to slot in at centre-back, this is the time to test who can actually do that. Have Tunkar and Thor got the partnership, which means they can deal with that if Millie Turner and Aoife Manning aren't ready, because they might be able to deal with it against, and I'm not having a go, but against maybe Leicester, who struggle a little bit more. But can they deal with it against the top quality opponents? And that's what they're going to be tested against when they play these three sides. So I think it's really important.
No, 100%. Armour, just very quickly before you jump in, make sure everyone's liking the video. I've just noticed as well, we're about 18 subs away from our target of 700, which we set potentially for the start of new season. So if you are new around here, I've seen quite a few new faces in the comments. Make sure you're dropping a sub on the channel. That would be greatly appreciated. And we're over the halfway mark for the like target as well. So we're nearly there on that one as well. But Ahmed, I'll come to you on this question in terms of the importance of playing, I guess, brilliant opposition and what you think the girls will learn by playing such top opposition. As Charlie said there, and as this comment says, they all play differently. So it's going to offer a different test in each game as well.
Yeah, with the Champions League, I've watched the last couple of seasons. Obviously, with it being locked down, you tend to watch more football than normal. So, watching the women's competition, I educated myself a lot more on who are the more established sides and who in Europe and what type of style of play they bring. Without a doubt, as Charlie says, Barcelona have just a ridiculous pressing relentless energy to a player. Every time their opposition have the ball, they suffocate their opposition. It's almost, you feel like taken aback watching it. So watching that Champions League final against Chelsea, they definitely dominated not only the game but just the general proceeding. It made it was a non-contest in the first half alone. So I thought there and then, but there's every sign that Barca will again be the ideal threat. They are European champions after all. Many time European champions. PSG, they've got a decent setup, good team, good backroom, good backroom staff as well. My reservation with them is just with their history or recent history, they've just not been able to crack at it in the big when it matters. And they've been in the finals the final year or so, a couple of years ago, semi-finals last season. And it just seems that they're missing that ingredient to really challenge against the likes of Lyon and Barca for that prestigious European Cup. As far as that, that also comes to mind with PSG. They strengthen relentlessly, but they never have a cohesive team unit. They dominate French football without a doubt, and they're just the best in their country. I just feel they need something extra to get over the final, and I'm very sure it'll be a problem. Bayern, as James has pointed out, have Lynn Magul, who blitzed the Euros. I thoroughly enjoyed watching her in the two games at Brentford, in the final where she scored against England. Definitely one of the best players in the tournament, without a shadow of a doubt. Another just stand well Bayern, but they have another aggressive. The German nationals were overly names and still come from Bayern. So it's a very robust, focused team. A side that just don't quit. So I think the few.
Is he with us? Is he not? We can't have a clean show, can we?
Well, the old days with John.
He was making some fantastic points there as well. I think he's gone. Whatever happens, I'll try and get Ahmed back in. Oh no, he's wait. Oh, I think he's back.
In and out. It's not looking good. Whoever that new service provider is, Ahmed, we need to send them packing.
Yeah, I'd be getting another internet provider if this is a new one. I'd be binning this one off and on.
Ambles, I'll be honest, I don't know what's going on.
Are you with us? Can you hear us now?
I can hear you.
I think you're back.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking still having to do silent. I was about to type in the thing as well. No, it's short. Each team has strengths. Each team is brilliant in their own way. So I think United will equip themselves well. Really, if they're going into the pre-season, they should aim to win it and hopefully, touch wood, no injuries, no problems. They see it through, and even if it doesn't lead to success, it's minutes in the legs. It means we see players who had the time off with the opportunity to show that they're still as good as they were in the competition, or if anything, a chance to prove to Mark Skinner that they deserve a rite of passage to start games in WSL. So it's a big test, obviously, playing as two of the three sides. I know we can't play all three, but it'll be good, I guess, if we do make it into the Champions League next season.
No, 100%. And Freya, have you just whacked your head on the keyboard or something? Because I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Whatever that is, and yes, it's we can't have we'll never have a clean show on all final. We will. We'll get there, I think, once one day. But Barry, I guess throwing it over to yourself in terms of this level of opposition. Now, obviously, we play City 4 or 5 times a season anyway. We play Arsenal twice minimum, Chelsea twice on. In terms of the importance of having a pre-season where you are facing some, as I tweeted earlier, some of the best in Europe here, and that's a target that we are trying to get to as a club as well.
Well, we officially have 4 of the best in Europe playing for Manchester United now, and let's never forget that. But I think I can't sit here and still claim to know anything, really, about the 3 teams that we're about to go and face, other than they've all got very big, powerful names behind them in terms of their status in European football. I saw a lot, obviously, of Euro 22, enjoyed watching it. It was good fun. And I think, I suppose the key part of all of that is that the standard of play at Euro 22 was mad. It was really good. So if we're going to have that level of opposition as well, that's going to be a massive test for the club. And I think really that's where we need to focus ourselves on. I am looking forward to the game against PSG. I think, as we said, it's going to be a huge test. It will just be nice just to see the women playing again and seeing what it is that Skinner's got up his sleeve for the year ahead. But I was going to ask everyone, really, we know we're going to be playing PSG. We've got an option, really. We're either going to be facing Barca or Bayern Munich. So, Connor, you can answer this one as well. Who would you rather on the Friday? Would you rather be facing Barcelona, or would you rather be facing Bayern Munich? Because you guys are far more knowledgeable than me when it starts crossing the water.
Well, I can answer that one first. Barcelona, purely because Bayern are a very physical side and I don't want any injuries. Barca will run the legs off you. So fitness-wise, obviously, it's going to help. And like I said, if you do 2 lots of 2 teams over the 90, so one team plays first 45, another team plays second 45. Like I said, Barca will probably do similar as well. I think that will be better. Although, as Mickey said, Bayern do give us a test. And Bayern, yes. Didn't Bayern just play Brighton recently as well, I believe? And did they lose? Am I reading it? Charlie's got a thumb up. 1-0. You could have said that, Charlie, but there we are. That was seamless. I'll take the same question to yourself, Charlie, what Barry just asked there in terms of who would you rather face on Friday, potentially?
I was going to say similar to you, to avoid maybe less likely to get injuries against Barca, just because Georgia Stanway plays for Bayern, and it was not that long ago she tried to sterilise Leah Galton. Let's be quite honest, okay? She really went to town. But it feels like I'd quite like to see Bayern because I feel like we don't get the opportunity to see them play as much. Like, does everyone feel like you see Barcelona all the time? Barcelona women all the time? Because they're so good, aren't they? They're like, on like days and stuff, it was always their games. It was really easy to get them online in legal ways, of course, to watch them play. So it might be quite nice to do Bayern. I also feel like the German side, so the physicality of that might be more similar to what we're going to face in the WSL. So that might be better to see how we get on against a top quality side that's also physical, because there's a lot of physicality in the WSL. The quality is maybe not as good. So it might be good to play them. But I don't mind, really. I actually don't mind. You both all right?
I'm laughing at Barry. What are you laughing at?
Don't know. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I don't mind, actually. I'm not forced. I'm quite glad we're playing PSG because, again, a bit of a don't get to see them so much and as we do Barca, but I'm not bothered. I think they're both just two really good games. It'll be nice to see loads of really good female footballers on show, which is what we're after. And like I said, we might get tonked. Doesn't matter. Pre-season means nothing. We might win it. Doesn't really mean we're going to win the WSL. We know that from the men. Their pre-season looked brilliant, and then look what happened. But yeah, either or. Just to avoid injuries, though, maybe Barcelona will be the short and sweet answer to that. Less likely to kick us, I think, and just press us to death instead.
And Ahmed, yourself?
Best said about them and the better, please. I can't disagree with Charlie. I think, yeah, we ought to see a bit more of us against German opposition. If anything, I would probably prefer us to play Bayern in the next game, whether it be the final match or the third place game. Yeah, I mean, look, people will play on the fact that yes, the Stanway Galton thing happened, but it is what it is. It's a gritty thing on the pitch, and naturally, you grow a set on the field if you feel like you're brave enough to take on the next player. I'm sure there'll be a friendly. It'll be a friendly, but I'm not sure if it'll be that friendly. I'd prefer it to be Bayern though. Like yes, I know it's the risk of having an injury or two, but a test against German opposition. You see, like Charlie says, you see a lot of Barcelona and PSG, too much, if anything. And yeah, a chance to really test ourselves against German opposition. I wouldn't turn that down. So yeah, I'd give that a go.
No, 100%. And Ian did correct me earlier on that our last pre-season game is Everton as well. So, we've got this game potentially coming up. PSG, potentially Bayern or Barca. If we played Bayern, it is more of a... I agree with the points made there that it's closer, I think, to a WSL opposition than potentially Barca. I think the Spanish play, it goes across men's, women's, under 23, every academy level. Spain just play one way, and they have done for the last however many decades. Whereas I think you can get something a little bit different with the other sides as well.
I think all three of you failed in the question. I was hoping somebody would answer it with the words, the winners, Barry. We'd like to play the winners because if they've won and we're playing the winners, then we've won our match against PSG. So therefore, we'll be playing in an important match to win the Farmers Trophy. Amos French Trophy.
It's been far too much of a long day for that, Barry. I don't think that far ahead. I just answer your question with a simple answer for me.
He's used logic great. He's brilliantly there. It's just a shame that we weren't privy to that.
Just can't get the staff, can you, Barry? But what's everyone saying here? John, prefer Barca to play against. Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it. I think whoever we play, I don't think it really matters. There's a few comments a bit further up I've lost already, saying it doesn't really matter about the result. That one there. Not bothered about the result. I just want to see them tested. Charlie's got a hand up.
I just want to say, so I think there's a lot we see online. There's a lot of people worrying about what if we lose, what that means. It doesn't mean anything. I think we just got to go out and enjoy it. Like, what a brilliant opportunity for the players, for Mark, for us as fans to watch. Thank goodness it's now on telly. It's just a great opportunity, isn't it? And that will continue to drive interest when you've got those sorts of clubs. I always take it as a good sign that I know, like, City have qualification for the Champions League and bits and pieces. They maybe wouldn't have been an option, but I'm just really chuffed that we were selected. It shows that we've got a bit of clout, at least. Like, there's interest. Like, we talked, don't we, about 9 transfers. It looks like people are starting to drop United Women's name in it just to force transfers through. That's all a good sign. Like, we're a selling point, aren't we? We're seen as quite an important commodity in the women's game. I think this is just another example of that. So just enjoy it, whether we get tonked or not.
It's a fair point, and as this comment says, if pre-season matters, then Brighton are better than Bayern.
Yes.
So Yeah, and as Charlie, you said, look at United men's side. We had a good pre-season, and look how that turned out. So less said about that, the better. Just on that point, though, actually, I'm just going to ask you all a question in terms of. I'll come to you last, Charlie, because you have just briefly answered this in terms of whether you think. If I know it doesn't particularly matter if we lose, but I am worried a little bit if we lose heavy, especially with everything that's going on at United at the moment. How much of a negative impact that could have. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen because I think the girls are good enough. I think we could win all three, personally. But Barry, I'll come to you first in terms of, are you worried a little bit that if we rotate so much, that if we say tomorrow, it's not going to happen, by the way, I'm fully confident we're going to win tomorrow. But if we do get absolutely hammered tomorrow, is that going to have a big negative impact? Or do you just think these girls will be fine? Just brush under the carpet is fine. On to the next one.
There's a million things in the world to worry about, Connor, isn't there? There's the cost of living crisis, all these types of things, energy prices. It's like, am I bothered about whether we lose a pre-season match? Not particularly. Not really. You know, you measure that up against the real world issues we've got. It's nothing, is it? But from a footballing point of view, I see what you're saying. If we were to lose heavily, you know, fans can be reactionary and it could be perceived as a negative. Personally, I'm with Charlie. I think, first of all, the fact that we're getting this experience is massive because in the previous 4 years, someone would have to correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time I think we've actually gone and participated in something that involves the big guns of Europe rather than it just being playing people generally from the UK. So, you know, that's quite a big thing in the first place. But then also, secondly, you know, if we do lose, first of all, it won't be in the manner of losing that some other Manchester United teams might have undergone over the last year or so, because we will certainly see effort. I don't think Skinner's going to be calling them in on Wednesday to run 15 kilometres, that's for certain. I don't think you have that particular problem when it comes to United women. So I'm not worried about it in that respect. And again, as we said, it depends on what the team is. You know, if we go out there and we put out what we would consider to be our strongest 11, and in that first half they get thumped, it gives us something to think about. It doesn't mean it's a negative. It just gives us something to think about, because we all know from watching, you know, when we used to enjoy Champions League football under Alex Ferguson and such like, you know, it was always different. The way you played in Europe wasn't the same way that you would attack the Premier League. And I think that's going to be a really interesting thing for Skinner and the girls as well, is that it's going to be a different type of game, different way of playing than it would be in the WSL. So I just think it's valuable experience, whatever they do. And I don't think we should be too fussed about it. I think, you know, like I said, let's just be positive. It's on the telly. We can watch them, cheer them on, see how they've got on. And hopefully, yeah, it'd be great if we win. But, you know, if we lose, we lose. It's not the end of the world. There's still another match on Friday. It's still pre-season. And let's be honest, the one we care about is Spurs. And they lost pre-season and they didn't go too mad. So, yeah, not too fussed.
Ahmed, what's your thoughts on this? Barry saying not to worry if we lose. Like I said, I raised the question purely because of everything that's surrounding Manchester United at the moment. And the reason I bring this up is because I don't think this is right, by the way, and I'm not going to get into this conversation because it's a whole other debate, but a lot of fans at the moment are turning to the women's side for a bit of positivity. They're turning to the under-23s for a bit of positivity. After the result the men have just had, now I'm not saying that this should be any way comparable, but like I said, if then that story goes out or Man United lose 6-0 to PSG, for example, is that going to be a negative impact on the team? And I actually, me personally, I agree with the comment that was made earlier that fans might overreact, but the players maybe won't. Where do you stand on that?
I agree. I think I can answer this question a bit more generally in the sense that with obviously what happened to the men's team recently, in particular Saturday, it has absolutely, you know, cocooned the club with different PR coming out. It's just not ideal, and it obviously want to put that looks like a side all together, and that there's a lot about that team that is more right than what the men's team at the moment. So yes, we lose 4-5-0 tomorrow. Fans will overreact, but I mean, I won't be one of those fans. At the end of the day, it's still pre-season. We took the men's. Some of us took the men's preseason a little too seriously, and look what happens. It just spirals out of control. I dare say the women's side, I don't think will get that same scrutiny because there's an understanding that he has it in check. Mark Skinner. That team will play for as much to him, to cater to his needs, and also to play to their strengths. So, as far as I'm concerned, regardless of the outcome tomorrow, I think there will be an overreaction, and it's not good for the club to have any more negativity at this point. But yeah, I think the women's team won't make it look as bad as the men's team. Let me say that much. They will put a much better effort out there than the men's team will.
Yeah, just to add to that, Connor, just this point, I think this is something we should really be looking at for pre-season. It's the relationships that start to form. We've brought in a lot of new blood. So I think actually seeing how they perform within the team, whether any new relationships start to form, and how they play as a group, I think is going to be far more important than the final score.
No, 100%. You're clicking on comments on what's going on there. Hello, Sang. He's still handsome. Like that.
Talking about us, actually, he can't be handsome. He's stuffing his face.
Be rating our foreheads soon. That's what it usually is, or hairlines, or whatever it is.
Yeah, Ahmed's not going to help us on that score.
Let's see what the scoreline is today, because when I'm on it, this fails to get above a 7. So
I had a haircut last week. It was worse than this, so it was literally much closer to the edge of my forehead. But
so I'm not sure what it's going to be today. But Charlie, just your last kind of comments on this before we look at just a couple of short questions in terms of who's everyone excited to see, who's got a point to prove, who's going to shine the most, and all those kinds of things. We'll look at that in the last kind of 10 minutes or so. But your last kind of final thoughts on the games themselves, and if fans, like I said, their fans might overreact, but how do you kind of feel with maybe the negativity that could creep in potentially?
Oh, people will definitely overreact. Because you can't help it. Like, it's an emotional response to it, isn't it? I do think there's an element of, like, if you go into those games and you get battered 8-0, I don't think that should really happen. So you can expect a little bit of scrutiny from that, and that's going to come with the interest in the game has spiked, hasn't it? So it's going to happen. I think probably our women's side are under more scrutiny of it because they're Manchester United Women's Football Club. So they're going to be under more intense scrutiny. But again, I just think the coaching staff and the staff that surround them and the mentality that they have, I don't think that will worry them too much. We've got lots of players who've been part of high stakes and high scrutiny scenarios over the summer with the 4 Lionesses, with Jackie, with Vilda, with Thor. So I actually think they'll be able to cope with that, with the scrutiny. And there'll be a bit of extra pressure on them, but pressure's good because pressure means people think you're good and that you should be able to perform well. But we just need to keep going back to what the pre-season is, and those people said it before. It's about minutes, it's about what works, and it's about looking at which relationships are going to work on the pitch and help push us on. But yeah, some people will overreact. I'm sure if I watch it and we're losing 6, and I'll be really annoyed watching it because no one wants to lose 6-0, do they? But I think it'll be fine. I don't think it'll be a massive worry. If they were getting battered and you were seeing nothing, like no ideas from them, no sort of strategy of bits and pieces they were trying to do, then maybe be worried. But no, I think what?
Sorry, every so
had a howler.
Because you disappeared there, Connor, and I thought Barry couldn't unmute himself. I'm just talking.
That was what got me. He just went. I was like, oh, where's he gone?
He's had a howler.
It's because I went to unmute, and obviously the unmute button's right next to the stop camera thing, and Barry started laughing, and it killed me.
But it wasn't even just that, because he went, and then as soon as he came back, he had just this little flicker in his face. He had to go, what happened there?
He's got all red, look. He's got
Ahmed,
red.
don't. Do you remember what last time me and Ahmed were on a show together? It was absolute chaos. We could not stop laughing for like 15 minutes. I'm not.
I do not wish to repeat what he said on that show. It will set us off again, and I know it's been a year since then. We can't go back there.
Yeah, it was. No,
I can't remember what the question was now.
I think you answered it, to be honest.
I think I answered it 90 seconds before I finished, but I wasn't sure what was going on technically your end. So just kept going.
Nothing went wrong technically. I just clicked the wrong button.
All right. Okay.
So human error.
Incompetence then. Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Oh dear. I don't even know what the next questions were now. That was it.
Who do you expect to shine?
Yes. I wasn't going to ask that one first, but there we are. But you know what? We'll go for that. No, we won't. I'm going to go for who's everyone excited to see first, because it kind of ties into that a little bit. But we'll go through these briefly because I've got 3 kind of quick fire questions on this one. In terms of, I tweeted this earlier. We got some interesting answers. You know, some people excited to see the new signing. Some people. I'm sorry for bringing light. Sorry, pardon the pun to this comment.
There's only one answer for this, and if anybody is tweeting or giving the answer of me to this one, then that's wrong. Because look, my light's not all that bright, and it's all the way up there now.
I don't have a choice where my light is, and I've put my desk in an excellent position. So I am basically the angel, ladies and gentlemen.
I was just going to say it's a halo for you, sir.
It fits into me perfectly, really.
Charlie's going to be breaking into a Beyonce song soon.
Lord help me.
Oh dear me. And Marty, I do apologise. We will get professionalism back on this show in about 30 seconds' time when I stop speaking. Yes, who's everyone excited to see? Like I said, I tweeted this earlier. We've got some, obviously, people want to see, some of the new signings. People want to see some of the returning faces as well. I'll let you, I'm going to be really strict on you here, and you can only give one name in terms of who you're excited to see, because I know that's going to be tough. So, Charlie, I'll come to you first. Who are you most excited to see? And by the way, we're not player FC, so whoever you do say, it's not like, oh, you've got an agenda, that's your player. You know what I mean? But just for the purposes of this.
Can I give a very brief reason as to why?
Yeah, go for it.
Like a brief one, which I have said to you before. I've messaged you before. I have this feeling, and I don't know, I'll probably jinx it now. I have this feeling that Adriana Leon is going to come in and do something quite special. There are certain reasons as to why that is. So I've got Canadian friends who raved about her and said it just didn't work at West Ham. Said she's an incredible footballer. And I just have this feeling that she won't necessarily start, but I almost feel like she's going to come on. She'll come into games and she will make things happen. A bit like our girls did for the Lionesses. And then it'll make it very difficult not to pick her. I just have a feeling about that. So either that's going to happen or now I've ruined it and she'll be absolute SH1T. But I hope it's the former. So I'm going to go with Leon.
No, it's a fair shout. And just to add a little bit of chaos for your armour, there's a couple of comments. You've got a halo there, like Barry said. John's in there. There's an angel above you. And all these kinds of things. And Sang, you don't need to apologise. It's... We don't worry about those kinds of things, but
keep saying it. It's hilarious.
Can we just confirm he means the light and not you, Connor?
But yeah, if John feels that way about me, it's perfectly fine. So
I'm slightly worried for John's sanity now.
Ahmed, same question to yourself. Who are you excited to see? The one name for you.
God, I hate having to pick one out of God knows how many. The new signings are good. I think there'll be Laetitia would be a standout performer, I think, this season for us. So I would love to. I'd love to see her play frequently. Yeah, obviously Charlie mentions Leon, and I think Leon.
We're going to find out who it is.
All right, the answer's simple. If I cut out again, it's gonna kill me, dear. But the simple answer, I'm excited to see Nikita Paris. Yes, she's played for Arsenal. Yes, she's made a big move. But ultimately, I think she's just different gravy. If she's on her good day, she's unplayable. And it will be one of the best players in this country. So without a shadow of a doubt, I can't wait to see what she'll do in the United shirt. And I think she'll complement a lot of what we do up front in this very unique way. It helped Thomas and Galton out, especially with like just being able to divert defenders' attention while we get the target player in there. So I'd say yeah.
It's a fair point. Barry, who's your kind of one player that you're most excited to see?
I don't like this question, Connor. And although I appreciate you coming to me last, it has caused me untold levels of mental gymnastics in the last 2 minutes. And I've fallen off the beam. I think I'm going to be disqualified. There's too many that I'm looking forward to seeing. I thought I'd narrowed it down just to new signings when you were talking through your poll. Like, yeah, one of the new signings probably, because I know what all the others can do. And now I've got to nail it down to one of the new signings. It's a lot trickier. I was initially going to say Nikita Paris because there's been so much debate about her, I really want to see what she's going to bring to the table so we can start gaining some clarity around that. I still believe she's going to be absolutely fabulous. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. But then that's been said, and so is Leon. So I started thinking, is there anybody else I'm excited to see? So I actually do have my answer now, and we can remain calm. I'm looking forward to seeing the one that I know the least about out of all of our new signings, and that is Tounkara. So I'm looking forward to seeing how she performs at centre-back, whether or not she's going to be somebody who we can expect to see in the first two, whether we're going to be looking at, a TNT, a Thor and Tounkara, or a Turner and Tounkara. So that sort of thing, really. So I think for me, Tounkara is the answer.
No, it's fair point. There's been a lot of different names in the comments. I quite enjoy reading some of these. Dying on. There's too many comments now. Martin's comment there. Want to see the centre-back pairs again. Yeah, we don't know who that's going to be. We still don't know who that's going to be potentially going to the new season as well. This is a very good point. If Bethany can do what she's done between the Olympics and now, why can't Nikita Paris do that? Bang on. Exactly right.
Round of applause for that one.
This is a very good point. How Russo does after such a good summer. Can she continue that, obviously, into the season as well? My player who I'm most excited for this, I always would like to say a new signing, but Charlie nicked my answer, so I'm going to change. I don't like being the same because mine would have been Leon. I'm actually going to say Vilda Borisa, and it ties in to my next question. It's a nice little segue, purely for me because Vilda and Norway in particular obviously didn't have a great Euros. Vilda didn't get as much playing time as I wanted to, and most United fans obviously last season would have wanted her to as well. So mine's Vilda, but that kind of ties into my next question in terms of if you had to pick a player, or I'll give you a couple. You can maybe name two players on this one. If a player has a point to prove this preseason, is there anyone that you think going into this preseason and following on into the season is going, right, I need to prove myself this summer? Particularly, looking at the two tough games that we've got coming up this week, is there anyone that springs to mind for you? I can see, Charlie, you're thinking away. So I'm going to interrupt your thinking and come to you first.
So just to confirm this, by point to prove, does that just mean historically didn't perform very well, need to perform very well, or just generally could prove something to be one of the starting 11? Because that's kind of what I'm going to go for. Yeah,
either or. I think, because if you're looking at players with a point to prove, you could argue Leon and Paris because of previous club history. But you could throw a player, like I said, Vilda Borisa in there because of her, obviously, Euros and back in the last season.
Yes, I think, and this is just because I don't want people to jump all over me on the comments, this is because of, I think, the sheer volume of attacking signings we've made, of international attacking signings, that some of us assume are just going to start. I think some people have forgotten a little bit about Leah Galton. So that's not me saying she didn't perform well last year because she did, or she won't perform well this year because she will. But I think she's the sort of player who will want to hit the ground running because of who is chomping at the bit. So this isn't like before where it was Leah and there wasn't really much scope for competition. And she still worked hard regardless. But I think knowing who is behind her, and like Marty talked about, motivated players that we've brought in. Leon, Paris wants to go to the World Cup. Garcia, I think Galton will hit the ground running, which can only be good for Man United because she'll feel like she doesn't want to be forgotten or overlooked because she's not shiny and new. So she's my first one. And my second one is Torres Dottir. I think she will feel like she has a point to prove because she was made the scapegoat. I think like she didn't play brilliantly, but she was made as this. She was almost made like the lone scapegoat for Norway's performances in some aspects. So I think she will come in, and I think for her it'll also be a little bit for me. Once Mannion and Millie are fit, you kind of think the first 3 choice centre backs will be those two and Tunkara. So if you're Doris Dottir, you're thinking, if I want to stay here and I want to be at Man United, which she probably does, she is someone who has a point to prove off the back of the summer that has happened. Because people only remember your most recent performances. People will forget what a colossal job she did for us at the back end of last season, with all the clean sheets that we kept. So I think her and Galton, not because they performed badly for before, Galton because of who's coming, so she'll want to hit the ground running, and Doris Dottir because of the Euros and what happened there.
No, very good shouts. I'm going to come to all of the comments in a second because there's some really, really good discussion going on in there and some really good shouts for names in there. I'm going to come to Ahmed and Barry. You follow on from this in terms of who do you think maybe has a point to prove. And like I said, you could answer it in the way Charlie did in terms of forced them into the side or potentially had a previous rough season last season.
I feel it's hard because I'll be honest, I haven't looked a lot at the women's games. I try my best to keep up with them as much as possible, but I try and refer it on basically a little bit on opinion and on highlights where possible, and also the Euros, because obviously a lot of the talent that played in the Euros had a point to prove. So if we're looking at it from a United perspective, I agree with Charlie on Thors Dottir because the game against England for Norway, I feel a bit sorry for her, to be honest. It was rough out there. You got obviously the atmosphere on top of you. England are in a mood that night. They're in no mood to sit around. I think it's hard on her. So special mention, I'd say I'd agree with Charlie. She needs that opportunity to prove herself in this preseason period. For me, the 2 players I'd look forward to seeing in our colours, I would start with, without a shadow of a doubt, or hope need to prove a point in the season. I think the first I would say would be Martha Thomas. I remember the game against Chelsea I attended in the Conti Cup semi-final. Obviously, we ultimately fell short that day. But, I mean, there are signs of her, of her skill set being important for United, but it just hadn't always developed in the big games. And I'm hoping that she's used this time off to be able to review her game, see what she can improve on in terms of being the target player inside an 80-yard box, bully defenders, make it hard for them to mark you. So I see a benefit in her being an asset for United this season. So I think Thomas has definitely got a point to prove. And the second player I would say I would love to be able to prove a few doubters wrong. Ona Bachi had a fantastic Euros. I think she's gonna go. It's more not so much someone I think needs to kick on, someone I think who will kick on into another gear. She was amazing for United last season, had a wonderful Euros. And I think she'll go on to go bigger and better.
Can you hold that? Sorry, Amy. Can you hold that thought? Because that's going to be my next question in terms of who's going to potentially kick on and who will shine across the pre-season.
I'll be honest. I'm struggling to think of many that I can attribute to that. Your previous one, so I thought one of each would make sense.
That's all right. I said I'm going to get to the comments in a second, provided my laptop allows it. Let's say my whole thing just froze a second ago. I don't know what happened there. But Barry, yourself, anyone with a point to prove in your eyes?
I think there's quite a few people that would like to have a point to prove. I feel like, and there's a big list, Connor, you could choose Sophie Bagley. She's got to step up and try and see if she can ever dislodge Mary Earps, which is going to be the trickiest thing in the world to do. She wants to play football. She's not just going to be someone who signs up to just sit on a bench. She wants to play. So I think she's got a point to prove. I think Charlie was spot on with Thor. I think Blundell has got potentially a point to prove. If Maya Letitia has been brought in as a fullback, potentially she might find herself shifted. I agree with Ahmed on her as well. I noticed that Lucy Bronze is down for the Ballon d'Or and not a mention of Ona Battier. So I find that quite interesting. She might see that as a little bit of a slight and feel like she's got something to prove. I agree with you, Vilda. I think Ladd and Groningen potentially might feel that they've got a point to prove in terms of nailing down a starting position. The two that really stood out for me in the midfield, though, I thought was actually Jade Moore and Lucy Staniforth. We barely saw Jade Moore last season, so it's a real chance for us to see how she gets on. And I think also Lucy Staniforth, like I say, she's got a huge point to prove in terms of starting rather than just coming on as a sub. And then the front line. Galton was spot on again from Charlie. I think Thomas was another good shout. But the four that I've really earmarked up front was Hanson, Williams, Paris and Clinton. I think those four all have got massive points to prove. So out of that list, the two that I think I would pick would be, in terms of points to prove, Jade Moore and Lucy Staniforth, because they're the ones we've not really seen too much of. So that's what I'm going for. Why are we covering our eyes? What's occurred here?
I had to laugh because you named pretty much the whole squad. I said who's got a point to prove, and you've just named everybody.
Okay, so now point out one of those players that doesn't have a point to prove. We brought in seven new players.
It's
of them.
It's a
you
fair
bring in
point.
almost the whole team. So you tell me there's players there that aren't sitting there and looking at those names coming in and going, "Oh, that's it. My position is nailed down at this football club." Let's be 100% clear. What we're not doing here is saying that these players aren't very good. You asked the question, will they have a point to prove? The point could well be, oi, you're not having my position. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that it's a negative. It's more about which one of them has got a point to prove in terms of keeping their starting position, because we're not in a position now where you can just have players playing just because they were playing last season. So take that, Roberts, right back there. Waller.
No, it's a very fair point, and you did offer a different kind of answer. I want to get to some of these comments because there's been quite a few different suggestions on that before we look to the last question and wrap this one up. Saying Paris and Hannah. Blundell, someone we've not spoken about at all across this hour or so. Yeah, with Maya coming in. Oh, there you go. Well, you said everybody. So I don't think you could claim that one. Vilda and Jackie, Jack and Martin makes a good point. Jackie needs to prove that the team is better off with her on the pitch is a fair point as well. Sang's agreeing with you, Charlie. Talk about Leah reacting the same way Mary did. Let's just scrolling down. TJ also agreeing Blundell potentially if Maya Letitia is coming, because I think Honor switches to the other side and you got Maya right back potentially as well. There was a comment that was aimed at me and I've lost it. That one there. If I remember well, Connor was not convinced when he said Norway's defence was awful. Well, I kind of believed Phil and I believed the hype into Norway, and I got sucked in and got stung badly. So I don't think they're bad players. I just think if you watch the show back that me and Charlie did with Phil about a week and a half ago, it will explain, I think, why Norway were as poor as they were. But again, like Charlie said, I don't think you could put that all on Maria. Although I do agree she probably has a point to prove as well, with another centre back coming in, with Millie and Aoife Mannion coming back as well. Where are we looking here? What's going on 7? What's with the 7s? Can someone explain?
Barry.
7 new signings.
Oh, that was the one.
The magnificent 7, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Not the secret 7, because they actually told us about them.
100%. And Norman, you raised a good point that none of us have mentioned Zellum either. I think the assumption, because she's captain, she's going to be starting. But as Barry said, with a load of new players, nobody should be a guaranteed starter, because you do have now the options in midfield. We've got the options in attack. We've got the options in defence now. So nobody is nailed on anymore. Although Martin disagrees and says she's set in stone. Potentially, but it should be based on performances, and we'll see that hopefully going into this season. But who knows? We do not know. To wrap it up with a positive then, in terms of who we think is going to shine the most, who's going to stand out this pre-season. When we did the show this time last year, I remember Benny saying that Hanson was going to be the one to stand out. I can't remember who Matt said, and John said a couple of names as well. So I'm going to ask you just for one player, because otherwise you could name the whole squad in terms of who you think is going to stand out.
Who would do that?
So, Charlie, coming to you first, who you think is going to shine the most, I guess, and have a really good pre-season?
I think who will shine the most, thinking time, and have the best pre-season will be Vilda Arisa.
I love how you said that slower to give yourself more thinking.
Yeah,
You like dragged every word out just so you could think. Ahmed, yourself, have you got? Is there an answer that comes to mind straight away for you? Or?
Yeah, mine does need a bit of thinking. To kick on this season,
or who you think is going to be the standout in pre-season?
Oh, this one's tough. And if I'm gonna pick one from off the top of my head, I'm gonna have to stand my ground on this one, and just because we've said she has a point to prove, and it more or less ties in with her kicking on in her career. Obviously, she's had one season at United, so I'm hoping this season is a chance to kick on. Staniforth for me. She'll need to get something in the books this season, and I hope she can nail a starting spot down. If anything, prove that she's worth her weight in gold. Is the best way to put it.
It's an interesting shout. Some interesting shouts in the comments, which we'll get to in a second. Barry, as Sang says, just the one. So,
the person that's going to shine the most in pre-season is Ahmed with that light. It's a spotlight, mate. An absolute spotlight. I am going to go for Leah Galton. I think the fact she's already scored one, if she plays regularly, I think, 100% she's going to be hungry to prove. I think she was left out a lot, unintentionally, I feel, but left out a lot in the discussion amongst people that were going to be playing up front with all of these new people that have been signed. So 100%, I'm going to go with Leah Galton. I think she's going to absolutely boss it.
No, it's a fair point. There's a couple of people that agree with you. Rob from there saying Leah Galton, like Letitia, Leah again. That was another one. I've lost it. If Tuna can kick on from the Euro, she can have a major pre-season for what minutes she does get. So, like I said, the Lioness girls are probably going to play a lot less. I'll be amazed if they get more than 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes tomorrow after only being back in training today. And TJ, it's a fair point you raise as well. I don't think it's controversial. Just because a player does a job in pre-season initially doesn't mean another player won't catch them up during the season. Yeah, I fully agree with that. Things can change throughout a season, injuries, confidence, form, all these kinds of things when you actually get to the season. So who knows? We'll look to wrap it up there then. Before I do score predictions, because I am going to, why not? Just because we've actually got a game to talk about tomorrow. And in answer to your question, why you're all thinking about your little score prediction, unfortunately, we won't be doing a watch along for tomorrow's game, but we will be back on Wednesday doing a match reaction talking about the game. So we will be back on Wednesday to talk about the game itself. Charlie, I'll come to you first. And what's your score prediction for tomorrow? And she's on mute.
You have to unmute to tell everybody, otherwise it don't count.
So my score prediction is I think United will win 4-2.
Interesting.
You always get mad scorelines in pre-season, I think.
Mad scores in pre-season are a thing, and I won't go that extreme, but it'll probably be United can win this game, and I'll probably give it to them by the odd goal in 3, though. 2-1 to United here. Might be a little bit more competitive than we think it is.
I hope you're right, because there's a lot of people know what's predicted the United win yet in the comments. Barry, for yourself?
We're going 4-1 to United, with the goal scorers of Leah Galton, Kirsty Hansen, Alessia Russo, and then you interrupted me before I could think of the fourth one. So let's go with Leon.
Interesting. If that actually happens, I'm going to be coming to you for lottery numbers.
If that actually happens, don't even come at me for the WSL Predictions League, mate, because I'll be over it. But let's be honest, she'll probably be right.
Yeah, well, yeah, as Mickey's saying there, Charlie was looking up at a magic ball. Have you got You don't have a light above you, I'm assuming, not you, 'cause you're outside LSV again.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Moonlight.
Where's the comment going? Yes, 3. Sang predicting a United win. I thought that was the other way around when I first read that. There we go.
It's nice to have optimism. A little bit of optimism around United would be nice. So that's why I went with a win.
Sang's the only one in the comments, I think, that's not a United fan.
Let's see. Sang's a Chelsea fan. He's not stupid. So, you know. No.
Sensible options. Sensible option.
Indeed. John's going for a 3-2. Galton, Thomas, and Zelen from a corner. I mean, if that happens again, I'll be coming to you for your prediction. What are we going here? There we go. Question for you, Charlie. Where did you get your background from? I'm assuming
She's really in Lee,
so I go into Google and I typed LS Lee Sports Village, and I think it was photograph 3. So I right-clicked save image into my laptop. And then when I log into here, you can collect settings, and then you can select one of your own backgrounds from a picture.
One day, somebody actually suggested that on a comment on a YouTube video that we did a few weeks ago, saying that we should all have different backgrounds. So maybe we will. Maybe we'll look at that.
See, but I love my background. You've got my lovely beige curtain, my Manchester United mosaic made by my stepbrother. The greatest moment in Manchester United's history of the 1999 Champions League final, and out in Match magazine currently, the ladder, the league ladders that we used to do, that I used to do when I was about 7.
Fantastic.
So I brought it in because I thought I want some of that. I don't get that.
I need to buy that. Plot twist: Charlie's actually in the stadium, and that's really her there right now.
She's in the East Stand where they're selling tickets.
Exactly. She's
sold
backed
out.
her way in.
It's sold out.
Yeah, I can't.
There we go. But not Armeg. You'd lose your halo if you put a virtual background on.
It's a permanent halo. I can't remove it. I can move my head, but it stays with me wherever I go.
And when I finally get this redone, I'm fortunately, Barry's going to kill me here. I've actually got some Verstappen merch that's going up on that very wall behind me. So you're actually
Lord help us. How are you going to manage to avoid their frustration then?
So there's going to be some Man United stuff on that wall as well. I've got some disc plates and some other kinds of things to some photos and frames to go up as well. But there we are. CJ, absolutely no worries. I've actually really enjoyed this show, albeit we've had technical difficulties, we've had laughs, we've had puns, we've had good opinions as well. Which and to top it all off, I think everyone in the comments tonight has been absolutely fantastic. There's been a lot of discussion. I do apologise for not being able to get to every single one because there has been so many. We'll wrap it up there. Thanks to Charlie, to Ahmed, and to Barry for coming on. Like I said, we'll be back on Wednesday for the match reaction for PSG. And then, regardless of that, Barry will be back, hopefully, with no crackly mic. It's been okay tonight, but he'll be back on Friday for a fans forum as well. Start the PC. So we will pray now. And I'm sorry, Mickey. Everyone says that. I've actually taken Verstappen fan out of my Twitter bio for that very reason.
And look, the likes and follows have gone straight through the roof the minute you did that.
Indeed. So make sure you like in the video. I think we're one short. So, no, we've hit 20. There we go. What a place to end it. Like I said, we're about 18 subs away from 700. So if we can hit that before the start of the WSL season, that'll be absolutely fantastic. If you've agreed, disagree with anything we said, drop a comment afterwards. There's a few people in the comments I see tonight that always interact with us afterwards as well, so make sure you're doing that. And also that you're following All For Night WFC on Twitter as well to get all of the latest news and stuff on there as well. And also, just before we go, make sure you're following these 3 as well because, why not? They all give good footballing opinions as well. So we shall wrap it up there. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we shall speak to you all very soon.